So here I am with my real thoughts on Rarity Investigates, also known as How to Canonize Turnabout Storm without actually copying the fan work. This but feels like it's inspired by something the fandom came up with, but also stands fairly well on its own, is what we get from Rarity Investigates. An episode that plays out in a black and white film noir style, very similar to what we've seen in a great many other cartoons previously. Even My Little Pony has done a mystery episode previously. So we have a good number of examples to compare this to see if it did better or not. And what it did better than, say, Mystery on the Friendship Express is it actually showed us the clues and allowed us to figure the mystery out as we went along. What it didn't do better, as say compared to the likes of Dan Versus, is it didn't have a surprise twist at the end. There was one suspect, only one suspect, and no pony else was considered as a suspect, so the one person is the only one that could be guilty. The amazing hero from history, who everybody looks up to, turns out to be evil, has also been done before. Anyhow, as the episode opens up, Sassy Saddles is back and Rarity is in her Canterlot boutique. The episode picks up almost as if we had continued the story directly after the previous episode. Similar to what we see in Strawberry Shortcake's episode formula. It's very nice to have Sassy and Canterlot Carousel come back, especially this early. It gives us the feeling that these aren't just one-shot things. A lot of people considered that last week's episode was a pointless episode because they wrote the characters off as one-shots and figured the plot could have been done from Ponyville and there was no reason to create new characters and new locations, feeling that Rarity realizing her dream should have been left to the final season. Others, like myself, felt that it was a good idea to have Rarity realize her dream, even if these are one-shot characters in one-shot locations, because it changes Rarity's character and makes the series more interesting. Now that we know that these aren't one-shot characters in one-shot locations, it makes them just a little bit more interesting and makes that episode a little bit more important. Other things that I could point out. That was a very poorly made clothing rack if it falls over every time the door opens. One should take the measure to bolt the rack to the floor if it's going to keep falling over like that. Shadow Spade is an interesting character that Rarity has a book series that she loves, just like Rainbow Dash has Daring Do. It leads me to wonder, is Shadow Spade truly a fictional character, and will Rarity continue reading these adventures in the background of upcoming episodes? Or is Shadow Spade a real character, just as Daring Do is a real character, and there is truly no fiction in Equestria? Rainbow Dash comes back as a Wonderbolt Reserve, showing great continuity to the episodes that we saw in the 4th season, particularly Testing 1, 2, 3. So now we know that Rainbow Dash's character has grown, and they're definitely going to go someplace with the Wonderbolt Reserve idea, and they're definitely going to use it. So far we haven't had Rainbow Dash's dream clash with Rainbow Dash's responsibilities in following the map, nor has the map interfered with Rarity's dream as a costume designer. I was afraid at first that the map would call the ponies away and require them to give up their dreams to have a responsibility to the map so that they could be heroes rather than Wonderbolts and clothing designers and whatever else. But it seems that the ponies are able to enjoy their dreams and their responsibilities without the two things getting in the way of each other. And just as Rainbow Dash has Daring Do and Rarity has Shadow Spade, so too does Rarity have Trendlehoof, and now Rainbow Dash has Wind Rider. In other words, both ponies have some pony who was super famous, who they looked up to and got excited to see. Rarity doesn't just have Trendlehoof, she has a whole plethora of ponies who are super famous and who she fangirls over when she's around them. So now too, so does Rainbow Dash have an idol who comes onto the show for the first time, and Rainbow Dash already knows this particular pony's name. We also get to see Spitfire's mother. She gets a name and a speaking role and decent airtime, which is kind of upsetting considering that we still don't know a whole lot about the families of many of the main six. The film noir sequence and the narration, the black and white usage were all very fun. I love the fact that the clues were visible and we got to see them and got to follow along and to potentially solve the case along with Rarity, unlike Mystery of the Friendship Express, where Twilight was finding clues but the audience didn't get to see the clues, with the exception of Rarity's eyelash. And we also got to see the Royal Guards in a speaking role and got to learn a little bit more about what the Royal Guards do. In a way, this entire episode has made me hyped for many of the blind reactors. I've been hyped for Rarity Dash's reaction, of course, but I was also hyped for Gladys's reaction to Spitfire and Blue Star's Brony's reaction to the Royal Guards. And there's a reactor out there whose name I sadly can't remember, who I was excited to see him react to Soren. The way the mystery ended could have been handled a little bit better. We had one and only one suspect, the new character who appeared out of nowhere, who we were introduced to just now, who had a record that he wanted to protect. It would have been much more interesting if Wind Rider had been the red herring of the series and some pony else had committed the crime of sending a false letter to Spitfire to send her to her mother to take care of her mother, who actually wasn't sick, and then send her on the quest into the mountains to get the cure for the appendicitis that the mother supposedly had. While appendicitis is interesting world building, there are many other culprits who could have potentially been the real culprit, allowing Wind Rider to get off with red herring status. And this includes Spitfire herself, wanting to take a break from the Wonderbolts and wanting to test Rainbow Dash to see if Rainbow Dash really had what it took to step up as a member of the Wonderbolts and perform alongside them. It could have been Spitfire's own mom trying to get Spitfire to go on some kind of wild goose chase because she has her own motives and wants to be here among the Wonderbolts without Spitfire around to observe what her actions were as she was doing stuff without Spitfire's knowledge. It could have been Lightning Dust coming back into the series to try and get revenge on Rainbow Dash by framing her and pretending to be Rainbow Dash because she didn't like what Rainbow Dash did to her in the Wonderbolts Academy, and like Trixie getting her revenge on Twilight, this would be Lightning Dust getting her revenge on Rainbow Dash. This would be Lightning Dust's chance to be reformed and become Rainbow Dash's friend, and to mend the friendship that Rainbow Dash and Lightning Dust had lost. It could have been Starlight Glimmer showing up and messing with the main six because she wants to try and take them down. And it also could have been Changelings pretending to be Rainbow Dash. That'd be a great way in Equestria to frame some pony. And it could have been any number of other things. Also, if this whole thing happened when Rainbow Dash was asleep and having a dream, Princess Luna could have been called in as a professional witness, and she could have testified that Rainbow Dash was indeed asleep and dreaming, and that she was witness to the dream, and that could have been the perfect alibi to have immediately cleared Rainbow Dash's name, only leaving the mystery of who had sent the letter. After the events of Rainbow Falls, it's nice to see that the Wonderbolts are back to being awesome. They're not depicted as jerks, and they're doing everything as fairly as possible. The fact that Soren told Rainbow Dash that he would have to kick her out of the Wonderbolts wasn't because Soren was being mean, but because he was holding up regulations and rules that were already in the books. Also, Fleetfoot was nowhere to be seen. The instigator of the events of Rainbow Falls that painted the Wonderbolts in a bad light to begin with was nowhere in this episode whatsoever. Or if she was, she didn't have a speaking role. Another observation is that Minuet and Berry Punch were in the background and sitting together. These two ponies have sat together on numerous occasions, but they are not shipped nearly as hard as Lyra and Bon Bon have been shipped. As I wrap up the review, this was overall an enjoyable episode. In Canterlot Boutique, I find myself skipping the introduction of the episode and jumping straight to the song. In Rarity Investigates, I find myself watching most of the episode and almost never skipping any of it. I leave you, the audience, with this question: who is your favorite TV detective? Out of all of the many detectives like Munt and Jessica Fletcher and Sean Spencer, Perry Mason, Magnum, Matlock, Ace Ventura, Sherlock Holmes, kids from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, the teams from CSI, Castle Bones, Columbo, Conan from Case Closed, and a whole ton of other fictional detectives out there on TV, animation, anime, even video games if you so wish. Who is your favorite mystery solver? Tell me in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and good night.